Chapter 13. Slap in the face. Growing up in an orphanage, this place was Ella's home. She had feelings for every child here. But now, those children who used to call out to her were now looking at her like she was some sort of monster. All because of her indiscretion 8 months ago. Ella's heart clenched, and Mandy sneered. "See that? So you came here just to humiliate yourself." For a moment, the surroundings fell silent. Ella looked at the familiar courtyard and the familiar people, feeling like an outsider. Just as she was being torn apart inside, a voice called out, "Ella, why did you take so long to visit me?" A 12-year-old girl ran over, hugging her waist and shouting, "I missed you so much." Ella's once cold heart softened instantly. She reached out and stroked the girl's head. "Sophia." Sophia seemed to want to say something, but Mandy's cold voice warned, "Sophia, have you forgotten what I told you? Getting close to her will ruin your chances of being adopted." As orphans, their greatest wish was to be adopted and have a complete family. Sophia blinked her innocent eyes. "But, Mandy, I'm already close to Ella, and I've been adopted, haven't I? So you were wrong." Mandy was stunned. Sophia turned to the other children. "Have you all forgotten how good Ella was to us? How can you shun her just because of what others say?" The children who had run away stopped in their tracks. Sophia took the egg tarts Ella had bought and handed them out. "Are you guys really going to refuse a treat?" With that, the children looked at each other, then slowly moved closer. Although they still didn't speak to Ella, they were no longer as hostile. Sophia turned back to Ella and winked playfully. Ella couldn't help but laugh. Mandy watched from the side, her face turning blue with anger. She glared at Sophia, a flash of malice in her eyes, before turning and storming off. "Remember, you need to be well-behaved and sensible in your new home so that your adoptive parents will like you. Okay?" Ella advised, fussing over Sophia. Sophia nodded. Ella's tone suddenly changed. "But if they treat you badly, don't put up with it. Come back. The orphanage will always be here for you. If worst comes to worst, I'll take care of you myself." Sophia beamed. Time passed, and soon they heard a child calling from outside. "Sophia, they're here to pick you up." The girl stood up quickly, straightening her clothes, her big eyes full of nervous anticipation for her new life. Every child adopted from the orphanage felt the same. Ella smiled, holding Sophia's hand as they walked out. A black sedan was parked outside. A middle-aged couple stood by the car. Sophia walked over excitedly yet timidly, greeting them. "Hello, Uncle, Auntie." Ella handed over Sophia's luggage. "Thank you very much." But the next moment, the situation changed. The man pushed the luggage back, frowning. "We won't be adopting her." Chapter 14. Outburst. The man turned to leave. Ella stood there, stunned. She looked down to see Sophia, who had been smiling, now frozen in shock. Her big eyes glued to the man, wanting to go forward but too afraid to move. It was heartbreaking. Ella stepped forward, blocking the man's path. "Sir, can you tell me why?" The man frowned but remained silent. Ella pressed on. "The adoption paperwork should be completed, right? Is there some difficulty?" The man hesitated, unsure of what to say. His wife stepped forward. "We won't be adopting her because we just learned something." "What?" The wife explained. "We heard that there was a girl at the orphanage who didn't behave properly." Ella panicked. "Please let me explain. 8 months ago, I wasn't." She was interrupted. "You have to understand. We are older and have never had children. Adopting a girl with potential moral issues is too risky." One sentence left Ella speechless. The couple quickly got into their car and drove away, leaving behind a trail of exhaust fumes. Ella stood there, feeling like she had turned to stone. She didn't dare look at Sophia's face or the faces of the other children. She clenched her fists, her entire body tense. The courtyard fell silent. After a long while, Sophia couldn't hold back her tears anymore and started to cry loudly. Ella's heart twisted in pain. Just as she was about to hug Sophia, a little boy ran over, pointing at Ella. "It's all your fault. Sophia can't get adopted. I hate you." He threw the egg tart he had been saving onto the ground. Ella stood there, shocked, unsure of what to do. Mandy's voice came through. I told you, she's a bad apple. Do you believe me now? She walked over to Sophia, scolding. She's morally corrupt. If you're close to her, people will think you're the same. Who would want to adopt you? Stay away from her. Do you understand? Sophia continued to cry, looking towards the car's disappearing tail lights, her small body shaking with sobs. The other children's gazes towards Ella had changed. Ella stood there, her body trembling slightly. Mandy approached her, lowering her voice so only the two of them could hear. I told you, staying close to you brings no good. Ella's eyes widened, staring at her. Suddenly, she spoke with certainty. It was you. Mandy smirked. Do you have any proof? She didn't answer directly, but her demeanor made Ella sure that it was Mandy who had told the couple about her past. Seeing Ella's angry expression, Mandy felt a sense of satisfaction and turned to leave. At that moment, Ella grabbed a child's water cup from nearby and splashed it right at Mandy's face. Whoosh! Chapter 15. Ella, have you gone mad? The cold water splashed all over Mandy's face. She shrieked, Ella, have you gone mad? Ella glared at her, her eyes radiating a chilling fury. She was furious. Mandy disliked her because of someone and orchestrated that night 8 months ago to ruin her reputation and isolate her. Ella had no evidence, so she had to endure it for now. But how could she do this to Sophia? Just to target her? Mandy had to sabotage Sophia's future? Ella clenched her fists and spoke slowly. Mandy, this time it was just water. Next time, it might be something else. Mandy looked at her in shock. You wouldn't dare. Why wouldn't I? Ella sneered, stepping forward and forcing Mandy back. You know me well enough to understand that if you push me too far, there's nothing I won't do. Mandy instinctively stepped back. Realizing her reaction, she trembled with anger. You! Her tone was harsh, but in the next moment, she seemed to see something that changed her demeanor. She lowered her head, her voice trembling as if on the verge of tears. Ella, I know it was wrong to try to send you away, but I'm begging you, even if you hit me or curse me, I must tell you, please stay away from them. Don't tarnish their reputations. Every child here wants a family. Please don't come back. Ella frowned and turned around, seeing the headmistress standing behind her. Growing up in the orphanage, the headmistress had always cared for her like a mother. She was someone Ella had always admired and respected. But now, the headmistress's face was ashen, her eyes filled with complex emotions and disappointment. Ella wanted to explain, but before she could say anything, the headmistress sighed. I was wrong. I shouldn't have called you back. The words stuck in Ella's throat. Her heart felt like it was being gripped by an invisible hand, making it hard to breathe. Then she heard the headmistress continue. Ella, leave and don't come back. Ella stood outside, staring at the tightly shut door of the orphanage. She saw the children's undisguised looks of disdain as she left. Children's worlds are simple but can be the most hurtful. She smiled bitterly. She didn't know how long she stood there, but eventually, she turned and left. A phrase flashed through her mind. Life is not just about survival, but also about poetry and distant places. So she needed to look forward. Ella adjusted her mood and went to the office. Calling it a company was generous. It was just a one-bedroom apartment in an old residential building, with a staff of 3, including herself. As she walked in, a girl in professional attire approached her. Ella, today is the day Mr. Jean pays us the first installment. The company is registered under your name, so we need your ID and bank card. Okay, I'll get them. Ella reached into her jeans pocket. The next second, she froze in place, because she suddenly remembered. Yesterday, at the club, when she met Jiajia's lover, she had put her wallet in the cushion of the pillow she wore for convenience. Chapter 16. Turns out he's a closet pervert. Ah! Ella clutched her hair, feeling frantic. She must have been out of her mind to give that pillow to Mr. Edward. What now? Mr. Jean was supposed to transfer the money today, and it was crucial for their future living expenses. So, She had to retrieve the pillow from Mr. Edward. Ella said goodbye to the girl and hurriedly took a taxi to the Edward family estate. As she walked in, she bumped into the butler. "Sam, where's my brother?" The butler frowned. "Miss, you shouldn't refer to Mr. Edward that way." "Oh, where's Mr. Edward?" "Mr. Edward runs the entire family business, so his actions are significant. No one in this house has the right to inquire about his whereabouts. Asking him was pointless." Ella quickly scanned the second floor, then asked directly, "Is his room 201? The butler was taken aback. "How did you know?" She had seen him come from that direction yesterday from the first floor. Not completely sure, but judging by the butler's reaction, she guessed correctly. Ella got her answer and headed upstairs. Standing in front of his door, she hesitated. The man was furious about her pranks, and the pillow was the most direct evidence of her teasing him. If she asked for it directly, wouldn't it remind him again? Thinking about his warning last night, Ella shivered. She bit her lip, finally steeling herself. She looked around, tiptoed to the door, and gently pushed the handle. The door opened slightly. She peeked inside, then sighed in relief. No one was there. Of course, at this time, Mr. Edward would be at work. She scolded herself for being so cautious about his mood. But now that no one was around, she could take the pillow back. With that thought, her eyes brightened. She slipped inside, closed the door, and boldly examined the room. Mr. Edward's room was large, decorated in a way that matched his aura. The furniture was in black and white tones, immaculate, exuding a cold feeling, as if no one lived there. But where was the pillow? Her dark eyes scanned the room. She jumped on the bed, lifted the covers, and searched. Nothing. Then she opened the closet. It was filled with black and white suits and shirts, so monotonous it was boring. Still no pillow. Ella crouched down, her eyes falling on a large drawer below. It looked big enough to hold a pillow. She opened the drawer and casually reached in, pulling out an item to inspect. Her face flushed instantly. What she held wasn't the pillow but a pair of men's boxer shorts. She instinctively wanted to throw them back in but suddenly felt something was off. The man seemed tall and large, but why did these clothes seem small? She stretched out her hand, comparing the size, mumbling to herself, "His butt must be this big, right? How can he fit into such small clothes? He looks cold and aloof, but it turns out he's a closet pervert." Saying this, she was about to throw the clothes back in when she felt a sudden chill. Ella froze and turned abruptly.